Every few years, us paleontologists have the opportunity to get our field into the public eye. Thanks go directly to Universal's Jurassic World. With the release of Jurassic World Rebirth comes the trailers and teasers for the next installment in the award-winning Jurassic World Evolution game series by Frontier. Let's take a gander at what is in store and how that might reflect what is known of the dinosaurs in our world. One of the most underrated gaming genres is the tycoon. The tycoon game has been around nearly as long as gaming has, with some text-based games popping up in the mid-60s. A tycoon game is essentially a business simulator because it has something to do with the management of economic processes. However, I think the tycoon games that drew my attention the most were those that also had to do with biological processes. Zoo Tycoon, Dino Park Tycoon, Dino Island, and of course Jurassic Park Operation Genesis were some of the few that I think count as both a business and life simulation game, since they involve taking care of digitally living animals and learning about their biology to provide proper care. As you probably already know, the spiritual successor to JPOG has been the wildly successful Jurassic World Evolution series. The first entry released in 2018 and the second in 2021, and now we have the third entry fast approaching, hitting digital shelves October 21st, 2025. Ironically, within the same month as the 120th anniversary of the naming, publication, and description of Tyrannosaurus Rex, set y'all's calendars for October 5th. Anyways, the new game seems to be a marked improvement upon the settings, customization, world building, and overall gameplay from the previous entries. Two of the newest dinosaur mechanics for Jurassic World Evolution are sexual dimorphism and juveniles. That means the game designers have had to make 3 models per species, which is honestly insane. The inclusion of diversity in models here also means the inclusion of diversity in behavior. The juveniles will interact with each other and their parents in unique ways, depending on what you give them. Thanks to the sponsorship of Frontier via yours truly, I can make this video to talk to you about both the game's juvenile dinosaur mechanic and how real-world baby dinosaurs worked. Before I jump into what we know about the juveniles in Jurassic World Evolution 3, why don't we take a look at what is known of real-world juvenile dinosaurs? Unfortunately, not as much as scientists wished, but certainly far more than traditionally taught. First things first, dinosaurs are archosaurian reptiles, so they laid eggs. Is it possible that some super specialized dinosaurs managed to evolve a way to give birth to live young? Sure. Is it plausible? Probably not. Dinosaur egg fossils have been found all over the world and in some incredible sites. There are a bunch of nesting sites that contain hundreds to thousands of nests and eggs. Nesting colonies. The most famous example is Egg Mountain in Montana, home to a fossil egg field left by Maiasaura. Another quite common representation of dinosaur nesting colonies is those of Titanosaurian sauropod dinosaurs. This is based on a nesting ground discovered in Acamoevo, Argentina. Since no adult bones have been found in the area, scientists cannot say which exact species of dinosaur laid them, but considering their size, shape, shell construction, and the time and place, they were most likely plopped down by saltosaurs, a group of medium-sized sauropods that carried small, armor-like ovals of bone under their skin. Another example is that of another unidentified titanosaur found in Narmada Valley, India, likely the one presented in Prehistoric Planet. There is yet another fossil egg site in Mongolia, featuring the giant depressions of Oviraptorosaurian dinosaurs. Many other dinosaur eggs have been found, but most are not in a nesting ground. Fossil dinosaur eggs aren't much different to modern dinosaur eggs, aside from size. The biggest dinosaurs laid the biggest eggs, and the biggest eggs need adaptations to protect the embryo until it's ready to hatch. These sorts of adaptations include a strong enough shell to support the weight of everything inside, enough holes of the right size to allow gas to move inside and outside the egg, and various colors to keep the egg hidden from predators. Since we're more after the science behind juvenile dinosaurs, I think we can skip ahead a little bit. Once the baby is ready to hatch, it breaks its way through its shell. Some embryonic skeletons of sauropod dinosaurs show the presence of a teeny tiny pointy projection on the snout, an egg tooth. Egg teeth are used by every egg-laying vertebrate with us today: birds, squamates, crocs, tuatara, turtles, and monotremes. It tends to fall off or get absorbed shortly after the critter hatches. Some non-avian dinosaur babies were precocial, meaning they were capable of fending for themselves more or less immediately upon hatching. Others were altricial, meaning they needed extra time to cook before being left to fend for themselves. Crocs today operate somewhere in between. The chicks can swim and catch food immediately, but the adults will stay around their babies for a while after hatching. Unfortunately for paleontologists, baby animals are small, fragile little tiny blobs ready to be molded by their environment, with small, dumb, brittle little baby bones. Their silly smallness means they are the popcorn of the animal world, the most common fast food target for even the most brain-rotted of predators. Their itty-bittiness also means they are easily eaten whole, making them bad candidates for fossilization. Therefore, baby to juvenile dinosaurs are very rare, and the majority that are found tend to be bits and pieces rather than complete specimens. Thanks to over 200 years of looking though, there are now juvenile dinosaurs known from every major group, so it provides a good idea of what they may have looked like and how they may have grown. There are juvenile remains from most of the main theropod groups, like Tyrannosaurs, Dromaeosaurs, Ceratosaurs, Megalosaurs, and Carnosaurs, plus Thyreophorans, Ornithopods, Marginocephalians, and Sauropods. Let's take a look at the juveniles that have been revealed for Jurassic World Evolution 3 so far and see how they compare to their real-world counterparts. Tyrannosaurus. Tyrannosaurus should be a given. There are now more than a handful of known baby to juvenile specimens of Tyrannosaurus, and no, I'm not referring to Nanotyrannus, whatever that thing turns out to be. Pretty much every single specimen of purported Tyrannosaurus juveniles are 1 to 5 pieces, usually of the skull. The skeletons you may see of juvenile Tyrannosaurus are based on the much more complete remains of juvenile Tarbosaurus, the lighter Mongolian cousin of Tyrannosaurus. They show that the young had small, blunter heads, with their jaws being pointy little beak-shaped things. They had huge eye sockets, small arms, and long skinny legs. Their proportions are what a scientist might expect to see in these dinosaurs based on the known proportions seen in other theropod dinosaur juveniles. How does the one in Jurassic World Evolution 3 compare? I mean, they got the proportional differences between adult and juvenile down very well, with the Jurassic Park stylization of course. They appear quite a lot like the juvenile Tyrannosaurs from the Lost World, though to me they seem like maybe a year or two older than the growth stage seen in that movie, since these game versions have a slightly longer skull. In the real world, juvenile Tyrannosaurus went through an incredibly fast growth curve, putting on a ton of mass by the age of 12, and then more than quintupling that by the age of 20, before starting to slow down. At the size of the game's juveniles, the real animal was probably hunting animals smaller than it or around the same size. Not enough fossil remains are known to get an idea of how strong their bites were at this size, but since the adults had the strongest bite force of any land animal ever, I'd imagine it was extremely strong. Interestingly, juvenile Tyrannosaurus lived in a time and place that provided them with some of the larger known members of usually quite small animals, like the otter-like and otter-sized Didelphodon, the hawk-sized prehensile-taloned not-bird Avisaurus, possibly monitor lizard-sized Paleosaniwa, and the gator-sized pseudocrocs known as Champsosaurs. On the dino menu could have been the small pachycephalosaur, Spherotholus, the hornless, horned dinosaur, Leptoceratops, and the super speedy, one-armed freak, Triceratops. As a juvenile, they probably also chowed down on juveniles of other giant dinosaurs, assuming mom and dad weren't too close by. As for behavior though, this remains a complete black hole. The only way to know about behavior in fossil animals this old is with trace fossils or the brain. In the case of the brain, the void in the skull where the brain used to be, it can tell you about what senses the animal may have had. This is currently impossible for juvenile Tyrannosaurus, but a few endocasts have been made of adults, indicating strong senses of sight, smell, and hearing. A juvenile may have had senses just as acute, or perhaps they had to grow into the superpowers of their adult bodies. In-game, we can see that they play fight with one another. I hope we get to see them play fighting with their parents as well. Just make sure not to break an infant's leg and then bring said injured infant into your trailer. Velociraptor. Next up on my list of dinosaurs in Jurassic World Evolution 3 is the next main character of the Jurassic series, Velociraptor. Unfortunately though, juvenile remains of dromaeosaurs, the raptor dinosaurs, are even more rare than tyrannosaurs. The only specimens are embryonic, and pretty much the only good one isn't even from a true dromaeosaur. Instead, this specimen, a few skull bits, belongs to a troodontid tentatively identified as Byronosaurus. These raptor dinosaurs were far lighter, usually smaller and smarter than their true dromaeosaur cousins. What can be inferred is that they may have had proportions similar to baby birds, and the babies of those groups that occupied branches of the dinosaur-to-bird tree between the troodontids and the true birds. Blunt, short-snouted heads, tiny teeth, and huge eyes. Considering the heavy stylization of the Jurassic World raptors and the translation of that design into the style of Jurassic World Evolution, their juveniles would have to be different by default. These guys use the rules of baby proportions rather well. They are slightly softer, big-eyed, big-headed versions of the adult. We see them play with themselves, their food, their siblings, and likely their parents as well. In reality, a baby to juvenile-aged dromaeosaur or troodontid would have had to snack on exceedingly small prey: insects, amphibians, small mammals, pterosaurs, birds, or other baby dinosaurs. How will you organize your park to keep them well-balanced individuals? Don't want a situation like what occurred in the original Jurassic Park to happen again, right? Triceratops. Unlike the last two, a baby Triceratops is a much easier image to conjure. This is thanks to the existence of juvenile specimens of close relatives to Triceratops, as well as an actual skull specimen of a baby trike. UCMP 154452, or otherwise known as Harley's baby, is the back chunk of the skull and almost entire lower jaw of a very young Triceratops. The snout of this animal is reconstructed from the nearly complete fossils of Protoceratops, Psittacosaurus, and Chasmosaurus, all of which have babies known from complete skulls. Skull fragments from a baby Pachyrhinosaurus have been recovered but are not reconstructed and are also rather scant. Either way, a somewhat good interpretation of the face of a baby trike can be obtained. And boy were they strange. It seems as though many baby ceratopsids, excluding the early Neoceratopsians like Psittacosaurus and Protoceratops, had a small scalloped frill that was pulled back and down away from the skull. They also had the telescoped brow-eye socket complex seen in adults, but without the big horns, rough bone, or fusion. The snout seemed to slope down from the skull and end in a smaller, finer point than in adults. The Jurassic design for a baby Triceratops first appeared in the original Jurassic Park. Well, not exactly appeared, as it was a cut scene, but an animatronic was made, and it did eventually reappear in the Lost World. This design has largely been ignored as of the World Saga. The baby trike designs that appear in Jurassic World Evolution 3 reflect the one seen in the petting zoo in Jurassic World, though these guys seem a lot less wrinkly. In fact, they look like a more paleo-informed design in my eyes. They play with each other and their parents, which I've said for each of these baby dinosaurs, but keep in mind that the behaviors are unique to each species, even if they are doing similar things. A real baby trike may have fed on softer food than an adult, since they wouldn't have had the same jaw strength. Ferns, seeds, fruits, and leaves would have been a great foodstuff for them. What will you feed them when you start to breed your very own Triceratops? Lokeratops. I was just going to cover the 3 most famous dinosaurs from the Jurassic franchise, but I wanted to tackle the most recently revealed species due to how cool they are. Lokeratops is a centrosaur from late Cretaceous Montana, described only in 2024. It's remarkably similar to another dinosaur called Medusaceratops that some other researchers think may be one and the same. Anyways, Lokeratops is unique for its asymmetrical frill horns that curve out and over the side, almost like the horns of Loki's helmet, hence the name. Since there is no established design for a Jurassic-branded Lokeratops, the artists at Frontier working on Jurassic World Evolution 3 decided to cook up something extra special. This Lokeratops is essentially pure paleoart, with scientifically accurate posture, feet, leg orientation, body mass, and skull features. I've never been more impressed by a Jurassic design. The baby Lokeratops are especially precious with the exact features seen in real-world baby ceratopsians. Their colors would look particularly great paired with the Triceratops babies, in my opinion. Tropinus. Lastly is the species featured in the breeding program Feature Focus, Tropinus. This pterosaur is not a dinosaur, but a close cousin to the terrible reptiles. It belonged to a group that are now known for their very huge wingspans and bizarre snout crests, the Anhunguarians. No known juvenile fossils exist for Tropinus, but some are known from other cousins belonging to the Anhunguaria group. One in particular is Hemipterus, known from a nesting site containing at least 16 individual babies. These, combined with the known juveniles of other distant pterosaurs, allow a generalized idea of what a baby Tropinus looked like. The one we see in the Jurassic World Evolution 3 teaser is more stylized for the game, with a triangular snout crest, but it retains the known proportions of baby pterosaurs, except for maybe the way it folds its wings. Can you imagine having a whole flock of these little guys? Make sure to feed them well. This game is looking like a real winner, and the species they have shown so far are some of the best ever made. I didn't fully play all the way through 1 and 2, but I may actually schedule out some time to play through the entirety of Jurassic World Evolution 3, which comes out October 21st, and is currently available for pre-order on Steam or the Jurassic World Evolution 3 website directly. Special thanks once again to Frontier and yours truly for making this video possible. Now get building! For more interesting stories about nature, the history of life, or what goes bump in the night, subscribe, like this video, drop a comment in the comment section below, and hit the bell icon to stay in the know with everything Edge. Thanks for watching.